Ah, now you can also hear me. Okay, thank you.
That's better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Mohammed, thank you for having me and inviting me. It's a really big pleasure to be here among all of you guys. So let me give you a little bit of a small introduction. I work for Zonat. We are a web hosting company since 2012, and we have multiple web hosting brands around the world. However, I'm going to introduce you today to our newly launched revolutionary WordPress static site generator. And in this presentation, I'm going to share you the secret on how to make WordPress websites more faster, more secure, and easier to host, and also a lot cheaper to host. What basically follows in this presentation is a look into the world of serverless WordPress. What is it? How does it work? Why bother with it? And potentially, if you want to use headless WordPress hosting and want to set up building your setup, I will give you a small explanation on how to do so. So let's get started. Mhm. So the word serverless is perhaps not the most fortunate word, since you still need a server to make your site work, and that's why we always use the phrase static WordPress. This is much more on the point. Does anybody has an ID what static WordPress means, what it is? Is anybody already familiar with it? Um, I can just not really see the chats here. I want to make an interactive chat, but I cannot.
Yes,
Ah,
yeah, I'm familiar with the static side of WordPress. To make your WordPress to run as HTML and not consume the server side of rendering the front end. Is this correct, or am I mistaken?
yeah, so this was my presentation. Thank you. Yeah, this is totally correct. So yeah, the idea is basically to convert everything into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then basically serve a static.
Client side.
Exactly, and then basically you will serve a static clone of your website to the clients instead of your regular website. And the cool thing there is that you can still work on your WordPress site pretty normally as normally. You can add plugins, you can still work on themes, you can still log in into the WP admin, you can still write posts, but you're really going to use WordPress as a site builder. But eventually on the live website, you're not deploying a database and there's no PHP involved. So yes, the site is then rendered completely, and clients they only see the static clone of your website. So yeah.
I have a question, but I'm not sure if it's still early to ask that.
Sure.
Does it support all types of websites, or it's intended for a certain kind, like
Well,
let's say e-commerce or a blog or whatever?
yeah, I will definitely handle this as well in the presentation. Mohammed, it's a very good question. Well, it's intended for all WordPress websites, but eventually, once you convert your website to static HTML, there is no database. So e-commerce is a bit tricky, but in this presentation, I will also show you how you can have an e-commerce website running on a static website. So yeah, let me continue, guys. So just a small history. When I started building websites in the early 2000s, they were pretty much all static because I never knew anything about the database. I don't know if they existed. I don't think PHP, my admin, was really that popular. We made stuff in front page. I don't know if there are guys that are still like this old school that maybe made the first website in front page. But now going back to a static website, we often describe this a bit like coming back to full circle. And a static website has definitely a lot of advantages. The biggest advantage, what I think, is speed, because static websites are generally faster because the page is already pre-rendered and there is no underlying processing server, there is no database query, there is no PHP processing. So this is definitely nice, and also security. let's say that your standard dynamic website has a big attack surface. Every layer from the Apache server to MySQL to every plugin that is installed is potentially vulnerable. And is vulnerable for attacks, of course. It's really hard to make sure that all the holes are plugged every time. And with a static website, there is barely anything to breach because you're just serving static HTML and CSS. So there's no database to attack or no WP admin. And also scalability. If you support high traffic sites, it can be very costly and complicated. And when you are successful with maybe a marketing campaign and you get a spike in traffic, it can seriously slow down a website or even shoot out a blank page because it's overloaded. The fun thing with static websites is that it barely costs any resources because it's already pre-rendered HTML. Yeah, it's very lightweighted. And a fun thing is as well that there is less management and maintenance than with a dynamic website. You need to work on the regular maintenance, let's say upgrades, security tweaks, speed optimizations, etc. With a static website, you can basically often leave it as it is. You don't need to update WordPress because your WordPress is in a secure environment outside the live website. There are also some downsides, and that's basically that some plugins don't work out of the box. And using static website, you need to be a bit creative. For instance, the standard comments from WordPress, they don't work because they require PHP. Most of our clients, they always use Discuss or social comments from Facebook. You basically have to use a plugin that's outside WordPress. Just because there is no database in a static website. The same with contact forms. We mostly use Typeform or Google Forms or Zendesk. We're also working on a plugin that's using SendMail through an external API. I think we released that within 2 weeks. And that means that you can use Gravity Forms or Contact Form 7 with static websites. The only thing is you need to hook it up to a third-party API. Other solutions are using a plugin that are using full JavaScript to send an email through a contact form. There are definitely some ways to work around, but most of the out-of-the-box solutions, they don't work because often they require database access that you don't have on a static website. And also, yeah, this is one of the things I don't like about when I explain a product. WooCommerce, it doesn't work because WooCommerce, of course, is a very dynamic plugin and it needs PHP, it needs a database. So there are definitely alternatives, like you can have a Shopify embedded store into your website. You have solutions like Ecwid. We have a full list of solutions that basically work, but most of them are third-party plugins. Often there are freeware as well, or they have a freemium model where you can get started with like basic functions that are pretty much similar than WooCommerce that you can use for free. And then once you want to have some add-ons and stuff like that, you often need to pay a few bucks a month. And this is something that you should consider. If you really want to use WooCommerce, you cannot do this on a static website, unless maybe you're not using the shopping cart, but maybe only use affiliate links, for instance. Forums, they also don't work, of course, because they require a database. So this is also something that you have to look external. And the site search itself, it uses, of course, a database, but we recently launched a plugin that's for free, downloadable and in the WordPress website that allows basically you to use the search function. It basically creates a JSON file. It doesn't, yeah, so you don't need to have a database anymore for the search. So it's basically a refactoring of the original search plugin that comes natively with WordPress. So basically we changed that. And this is what our company also does. We offer a platform for static websites that I will explain you a bit later about. But of course, we also try to find out solutions that like rebuilding some plugins or work together with some top plugin vendors to make sure that this also works on static websites, because we believe, and also a lot of plugin creators believe, this is the future of a lot of WordPress websites as WordPress becomes heavier and heavier. Okay.
If you don't mind, I have two
Sure.
questions here. Just so the first thing is that how much time does it take to update? So you mentioned that there's a backend that's WordPress, technically the dashboard admin. I can go from there and use it as a page builder. I can update my website, and I push the updates. Does it take time for the updates to push, or it's instantaneously, or?
It takes like 10 till 30 seconds. It also depends, of course, on the size of your website. We're using Git, and basically our system is looking, are there any pages affected by this update, and then only updating those pages. So it can be done very quickly.
It's kind of a smart detector for
else you will have a lot of bandwidth if you, for instance, are updating some typos. Of course, in our first versions we had that, and then you have to update some typos, and no. So no,
for things like Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, and these e-commerce marketing tools. Of course, you can embed them, you can add them to and make use of these things.
Yeah. Basically, everything that's just a line of code like JavaScript will run out of the box. This.
Right.
Yeah, because Google Analytics is normally just a small piece of JavaScript, and a lot of other third-party tools, like for instance, you have this chat software, for instance, what's the name again? You have different like live chat software, for instance, that you can just use, like Talk2, for instance. I think a lot of people are using Talk2 because it's free and it's really, really cool tool to use for live chat and for support chat, and this is just like a small piece of code that you can just embed.
And there's HubSpot is also a famous CRM and chatting tool that people rely on. I think it should work like.
Yeah, and also about forms. A lot of people said, okay, I really need contact forms. But what you say, a lot of people nowadays, they use either HubSpot or another CRM software. And those CRM software, they already have just some JavaScript. And then if somebody is responding through a contact form, then automatically a lead will be generated, stuff like that. So yeah, how often are people still using contact forms nowadays? I think this is a bit like the CD and the cassette. It was something that was very popular, but nowadays there are different ways of capturing leads.
Now everything is integrated within each other. Like you need to have like a 360 solution of multiple products that serve a certain purpose.
Yeah, we live really in an API economy where, let's say 5 years back, you really wanted to own all the code yourself. And nowadays you're just saying like, okay, somebody already created like a really cool platform for something. I can just write my APIs against it, or there is already a plugin available. And I'm not going to waste any time in trying to redesign something that's already like 90% what I need. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Cool. Okay, then let me continue, and then later on, sure, I really like this live feedback. This is so much better than only one-way traffic. So who needs WordPress, static WordPress websites anyway? Basically, we created a platform, but also if you're not using a platform, static WordPress websites are basically for people that I would say want to upgrade the WordPress to the next level. This can be freelancers or agencies. So as a WordPress freelancer, you may encounter clients. Those are like they are not very interested in updating the website or even publishing content. They just want to have maybe like a simple business card kind of website, and they don't want to be bothered with updates or stuff like that, because they either don't have the staff for it or they don't want to spend any time on this. So it's really nice to give them a static website because they cannot break anything due maybe updates or WordPress updates. So the other thing is that there are some sites that think security is very important. Some businesses, they can just not afford to be broken into or to mess with. It's not only government websites, but for example, a local school website is also often point of attack. And I think as a local school, you don't want that your website will be hacked by some teenagers, and then basically maybe some inappropriate or obscene content will be on your website. And even you can explain this as a school afterward, your bad impression is something that remains. Also sites with complex design. So we also live in the age of page builders, and it's really not uncommon to use a page builder, and there are very good builders nowadays. And also you often see like, okay, I want to add some plugins to even make it better, but this also makes your website rendering very, very slow. Often you can solve this with some caching, but you often see that either people are under caching or over caching. Not everybody really knows what they are doing. So if you already render something on the client side, it definitely makes sense that, yeah, it will definitely speed up the website in terms of loading and performance. So it's just a quick fix. And also what's very interesting is, I don't know if there are any plugin or theme developers here, but I'm a really big fan of Theme Forest. And I often see very nice themes, but people are not always updating the demo environments. Fun thing about static websites is that they don't require a lot of space, but they are also loading pretty fast. So it's really nice if you have a plugin or a template that you want to showcase. If you make them static, one thing for sure is that you know that your demo will not be hacked by any maybe rival developers that don't like you or don't like your template. Of course, in Lebanon it doesn't work. It's not like that. But in Europe, we have some people that they don't like each other. It's like
That's an
water and
interesting
fire.
thing, by the way, like targeting people who want to host demo sites, and I think that would be really amazing for amazing usage for this.
Yeah, every time I'm on Team Forest and I'm see that that maybe like a demo is not working, it's really, I always want to contact them, but I was like, okay, I'm not into sales mode. But you often see that a lot of those demo websites, they're either like having a lot of mistakes because those developers, they created just a few, like 5 or 10 different templates, and then WordPress is updating, and they're not maybe not really updating their demo environment where they showcase the template. And also in terms of sales, people are buying templates that also load quickly. So if you have a static website or static demo, your template will also be loading very quickly. So you don't have to buy very expensive hosting for just your demo environment. But I will tell you a bit more about it later. And there are different ways of going serverless, and there are maybe methods that I don't know of, but the most common methods, I would say, it's the do-it-yourself method and the platform method. The do-it-yourself method, you can use, for instance, Google Cloud or Amazon AWS. You can download some plugins, and within, let's say, a few hours, you can pretty much convert your website to a static page. But often you still have your databases as well on the same server, as you are also having a static page. Some people use Gatsby. It's a JavaScript framework that works that helps you build sites with React. It works pretty well, but each of them, they involve a different level of DIY-ness. So you should find something that really fits your needs. I would say that once we are now living in this API economy, why not use a platform? We created a very nice platform that allows you to build basically WordPress website. It has a staging environment, and once you're done with editing your WordPress website, you can then push this to static HTML. After this slide, I will show you a small video about how our software, how it runs and how we came up with it. I would say that a DIY method, I would often maybe say like, okay, this is really nice for like hobby websites, and if you are really like into this do-it-yourself thing, it's really nice. But as you're working with maybe some professional clients, you don't want to have any downtime. System always need to work. I think you don't want to bother about Gatsby and some other plugins that are maybe not updated. So I would say let's go for the platform method. But of course, you're always free to choose whatever works for you. And I will explain you a little bit in the video. It's a small promo video of a software, and it really gives you like in like 1 minute an idea how FLATsite is working and what you can do with it.
Developing and managing websites takes dedication. You put a lot of time and energy into making great websites, but the work never ends. And we all know it's a pain to maintain a WordPress in a larger scale with all the updates, security issues, and expensive WordPress hosting. FLATsite is here to make your life and work so much easier. Sign up at FLATsite.com and see how easy you can begin. With FLATsite, you can convert any WordPress site into a static HTML site, resulting in ultra-fast page load speeds and secured like Fort Knox. All you need to do for setup is create your users, connect FLATsite to any FTP or SFTP, and install WordPress on the instance. FLATsite allows you to build and easily maintain even more websites with less work, and you save tons on hosting. And don't worry, with FLATsite, you can still use most of your WordPress themes, plugins, and tools. We've made many integrations with all of the top plugin creators. It gives the browser only what it needs: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, instead of access to the WordPress login page and database. This creates tougher security, eliminating WordPress vulnerabilities and the chances of WordPress sites getting hacked with no maintenance or update issues. So why not optimize your work and costs? Get faster, more secured, and maintenance-free static WordPress sites and manage them on a single dashboard using FLATsite. FLATsite makes web development and management seem like a piece of cake. Join us at FLATsite.com and start your 30-day free trial today.
Yeah, so I will explain you a bit later now, like how we came up with FLATsite, what is the story behind it, and how are we using this as a company. And of course, you can always think of, okay, how could I use this in my own business? But in the video, it's a really like a quick fly through, basically describing in like 1 minute what FLATsite is. And I will explain it here a bit more extensively. So basically the history, how we came up with the platform, is that we are very enthusiastic WordPress users. And a while ago, we needed to create a lot of different WordPress websites. And I'm talking about hundreds of WordPress websites a month that we wanted to build. We used to own a lot of domain names, and we built AdSense pages on them. And this used to be a very good business model, let's say 5 years ago. Nowadays, Google changed, and it's not always a good business model. But back then, this was really a cash cow for us. And we really liked to do this on WordPress, but we had a lot of problems with WordPress, and it was not about a single WordPress. It was also not about the multi-site WordPress, because this is really nice if you manage a few websites. But if you start to manage 50 websites or 100 websites in WordPress, you need something like a dashboard. You need something that basically you need to have some more resources, because if you have different WordPresses, it definitely slows down the server. As when we started, WordPress was often just a lightweighted blogging system, but nowadays it's a full-blown CMS. And if you have a nice template and some nice plugins, often your WordPress gets very heavy. It needs a lot of resources, and this can cause to slow down other WordPress websites that we had hosted. And security often was a problem back in the days, and also limitations in the teamwork and workflow were a problem, because we didn't want to give our editors admin rights. So we needed to log in into every WordPress, create users, and then go to the next WordPress. I mean, we're IT people and we don't like repetitive stuff. So we built, of course, a tool for that. So basically, very easy. We gave the browser only what it needs: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We left out the heavy database and PHP on the live websites. We removed everything that can be hacked or can slow down websites. Of course, like a database, and we removed, so that we made a tool that allows Word to work in WordPress, then convert this to HTML files, and then push this to FTP. Is basically what we did.
Sorry, but there's a question from one of the participants. He's asking if these HTML websites are responsive or not.
Yeah, so basically our tool is everything that you are doing in WordPress. So you can use any theme you want. If you have a responsive WordPress theme, it's basically just our tool is basically just scraping the whole website. It's reading it as your browser. It's then saving it and then pushing it through FTP. So if you have a responsive template you're working on, one-on-one, it's copying it to a page. So yeah,
So
if you
technically, like after publishing the website, I will be able to access my static files through the FTP and modify them like any other website, right? Like any other HTML file.
you can do that, but you can also just keep using WordPress itself in FLATsite. So within FLATsite, you can basically you can use FLATsite still as a site builder. So you can basically manage different websites from one dashboard, and you can then log in directly into the backend of WordPress. You can update something, and then you can basically push this update again to FTP. It will then overwrite the files that has been modified.
So there's a concept that we use in WordPress theming. It's called the child template.
Mm-hmm.
Is this still possible in the setup that we have on FLATsite?
Yeah, it's like any regular WordPress setup. From this part, it's pretty much similar as WordPress. You can basically do everything that you also do with normal WordPress, even in the development environment. Basically, we provide the staging environment, and maybe after the presentation, I can quickly give you a walkthrough through a real FLATsite instance. I will share my internet browser, and we can maybe do a small demo. But basically, it's it's just an environment where you have different WordPress hosted, a secure environment, and like this is still the same as any other WordPress. And then once you're done, there is a button to convert it, and then there is still a staging environment, so you can still test it. And then once you're happy, there is a button, and this will push it. So this will then write the HTML to FTP.
All right, thanks.
I think I also have a very nice video. So if you guys are interested, I think I can show you this video afterwards. It's basically a very nice tutorial on how to do so. So yeah, this was basically what I was just explaining. I will go rapidly through it. I don't want to bore you guys. You can install and you can create a secure WordPress site in FLATsite, still as you would do as well on any hosting control panel. And once you're done, you can then export the sites to flat HTML. And this is in a staging environment. And then once you're done with it, you can deploy WordPress anywhere you want. That's basically the simple story of it. So basically, we solved all the problems that we were facing once we were rolling out multiple WordPress websites. So the first one, basically, this is what you see here is the dashboard. Here you see all the websites that you manage in FLATsite. You can see quickly the status. You can log into the backend. There's quickly a way to preview it. So the problem that we had is that we had a lot of different WordPress logins. We had different hosting providers we needed to log in. Now and then we lost a password. We had like an Excel sheet. Yeah, that was not a good thing how we managed it. So it's much easier to manage it with a single sign-on. And also the problem with Excel sheets is if an employee leaves and he doesn't really like you anymore, or an intern, and you gave him a bad rating and he left, then he has all the passwords. So you needed to change all the passwords. This was terrible. But I know still a lot of companies, they just have an Excel sheet with all the passwords. And yeah, no, I would never recommend it. I would eventually always use a WordPress manager. Also, the problem that we had was a slow loading speed. So FLATsite, we would say it's normally 4 times faster than normal website, and just based on if you look at the average loading speed of WordPress websites, yeah, I already explained you how it's working. And the fun thing here is that a lot of SEO agencies are using FLATsites because SEO or the importance of fast loading websites is very important for SEO. So I would not say that all the websites that you make in FLATsite will eventually raise to the top of Google, but at least it will help you in the marathon that you are running, because I believe SEO is a marathon and not a sprint. Like, so you back in the days, you had like these guys that said, yeah, I can rank you #1 on Google, just have to pay me a few €1,000 or dollars, and you know, these guys were like a bit like the car salesmen of web designers. But no, I believe that this definitely improve a lot. But of course, you still need to use plugins like Gmetrics or Yoast, or you know, you still need to work with schematics and stuff like that to eventually get a good ranking in Google. But having a quick loading website is definitely something that that helps us a lot. Also, the problem was that WordPress websites, as big of a fan I am of WordPress, the downside is that it's still one of the biggest, how do you say it, the biggest, sorry, my English is not my first language, so sometimes I struggle with some words, but let's say that basically hackers, it's the #1 target of a lot of hackers, what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and basically the fun thing with static websites is that your WP admin will not be on a live website. So if somebody is trying to log in, they cannot do it. That's definitely the fun thing. So
there's another question here from Nilo. He's saying, how do you handle embedded static files URL? So he gave an example. Let's say on a staging site, you have mywebsite.com/file.jpg. And on the production, you should have myproduction.com/file.jpg.
I will explain you later. I will show it to you. I will go into FLATsite and I will show it to you. Basically, when you set up a website, you can give the live URL, and in the staging environment, it's basically generating a different URL. So it should not be a problem, but I will explain it with a few of our websites. Also, a problem that we had is we had to overpay really hosting. WordPress itself, they recommend Bluehost, Dreamhost, and SiteGround, and even we run a few hosting companies. I would say that their hosting is quite okay. They have a very good cloud-based hosting, but the problem with them is that it can be very expensive if you need to host multiple websites, and basically means that if you just do a quick math, if you have 25 websites over 3 years with SiteGround, they're the most expensive one. It's like almost $80,000 that you pay for 3 years hosting. If you have 25 websites, and of course, there are like different and cheaper hosters, but if you want to have good WordPress hosting, you need cloud-based hosting, and this is not like the very cheap hosting. This is not like the HostGator or the $1 a month hosting. I mean, this was like fun in 2005, but not anymore. This WordPress is much more mature now. And the other problem that we had, okay, so just to come back here, is that the fun thing is with FLATsite is that you can basically, because you only have static HTML, you're able, and we have even a few clients that just have a shared hosting package. They run like 50 static websites on this shared hosting package. So they just have some add-on domains on them. Yeah, so you can at least save a lot of money using static websites. Also, the problem that we had, and I already described it, we needed to log in into every website to make an editor role, to make a site admin role, because we had some virtual assistants and some writers, and we didn't want them to change anything in the plugins or templates, or let them not work on stuff they should not work on. So what we did, basically, we got a centralized system in FLATsite. There you can create the roles, you can assign users, and you can say, okay, users, for instance, in this example, Sebastian, he is admin. So the admin can basically do everything. They have God mode. Then you have Sebastian editor. He is only an editor, so he can only preview posts and stuff, and he can push a new post, and he can do some lightweight stuff, but he cannot do updates himself. So somebody needs to approve his updates. So he can never push anything to a live website. And then you have admins. They can basically do everything within one website. Also, we have some clients that created user groups. We have right now a function for user groups. That means that within FLATsite, you can also give your clients access to maybe only 1, 2, 3, 4 websites that only they can manage. So if you have, for instance, you want to offer static clients or static websites to your clients, you can then basically only give them the access to the websites they have, and you can still use FLATsite instance then as well for other websites. And this is normally how deployment works. So here you have all the servers basically, and once you're done editing your website, this is about the URL. Here you see the URL of the development instance is oz.zona.io/instance/72. This is the development instance, and once you're done, you push them to the live website, and the URL will just change. Everything that you have done embedded, as long as you use the site slug. I guess you should know what the site slug is. If you use this slug, it will automatically convert it to the WordPress to the WordPress URL that you have. That was pretty much my presentation for today. I will try to look up for a quick YouTube video. If you give me 1 second.
Sure. Meanwhile, thank you so much for this amazing presentation.
Thank you.
I think it's clear, at least for me. The first time I encountered the product, I was like, how does this work? I had so many questions like, can I add an admin? Can I add an editor? What happens with the staging URL? Should I like manually go and change it? Does it support multi-flow like staging, development, and all of these things? So I guess it's clearer now. So if anyone has a question, please guys feel free to unmute yourself and ask anything while we're still here. So this is
sure.
the video, right? Yeah. So if you want, start playing maybe.
Let me show you the video.
Today we'll be creating a static WordPress site using the FLATsite static site generator. After sign-in, you are directed to the dashboard. On the dashboard, you could see your websites, servers, and users you add, and you can manage them by clicking the buttons. On the navbar, local websites is to all the websites, while administration is for the admins to edit servers, users, and teams. Click on Users to create users. In this setup, we've chosen to have only one super admin who can do both website editing and live deployments. This works great in smaller organizations. Add name of the admin, email. Select admin as role, and then enter password. Then click Save. If you're working in a larger organization, you probably want your editors or admins limited to perform certain functions. For instance, your editors can be restricted to contribute only new posts, and only the admin can publish the new site and approve updates. Let's start by creating a connection to the external server where the site will be published once finished. Click View Servers. Click Create Server. Then add name, protocol, hostname, port, path. Then enter your credentials. Then click Save. Now you see your server's configuration. You can also test the connection through test.
I just want to say here something real quick. You can add different paths as well. So if, for instance, you have a shared hosting account, you can, of course, create different paths. So that means that you need to create different servers in FLATsite, but they can lead to different paths. So this is just to explain you that you can have multiple FLATsites on one shared server.
Connection button. Next, we're going to create a WordPress instance on the FLATsite platform. Click View Website, then click Create Website. You can link the publishing server to your website. Once you deploy your website, it'll be pushed to the server via FTP or SFTP. Add the name of your website or project here. Add the URL of the site here as soon as it's published. Now we'll select our preferred WordPress language and localization. We'll go with English in this example, but we have over 135 languages available for you to choose from. Here is the standalone page option. You can choose specific standalone files like CSS, JS, or WordPress pages that you want to export outside the WordPress system. Go ahead and press Save. The WordPress site will generate onto your FLATsite instance. At this stage, you'll be redirected to the website you just created. You can click FLATsite or Local Websites to see the WordPress site you just added and start editing your WordPress site right away. Click Backend and you can create new pages or make any changes on the existing pages on WordPress. Now let's create a new page. It's just like on WordPress. After building your page, go back to the FLATsite admin of your instance and choose Export. Enter a description of your changes. This way you can keep track of every update. Once the site is exported, it creates a static version locally so you can preview it before pushing it to the live website. If you find any mistakes after the export, you can fix it and export it again until you have your desired result. Now let's approve the update and test the connection. We need to make sure the FTP is connected to FLATsite. Finally, it's time to deploy the website to publish it online. Press Deploy. Now the site is online and you can check the live website. It's that easy.
Yep.
That's interesting. That's really good, you know. So technically it replaces the files on the FTP, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Cool. Right. So guys, anyone has a question?
I hope nobody felt asleep.
No. I think so. We've maintained a high ratio of participants throughout the.
Nobody left. Okay.
Just now, two of them left, so I think that's good. All right, so I'm gonna give it a couple of minutes. If no one has a question, maybe we can start with our game. It's a short game. Couple of questions about the platform. And the winner gets to have, as we said, what do we say? Good discounts for this, right?
Yeah. Up to 50% discount. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So so someone is asking, is Rank Math or Yoast? Do they work?
Yeah. Only the thing that is maybe not working that well is the green lights on Yoast, and a lot of people, they really like this green lights. But basically all the functions, they work. But of course, once it's scanning, it's basically trying to scan the live website. But if you haven't done the changes yet, it will not see it. So because you're basically working under a different URL. It's the same like basically if you would scan your instance, if you're working on a local instance. But all the functions like the schematics, it does, the H1, all the other stuff it does, the page titles, everything will just work.
That's good. I know it's a intuitive question, but of course it supports other languages, right? Like Arabic language or.
Yeah. It's just like WordPress is also supporting RTL, so yeah.
So Nilo is asking again. You know what? Let's hear your voice, man. You're muted, I think. Just unmute yourself. All right.
Hi.
Oh. Hi.
Hey.
No, I was just asking, do you always have to replace all the site when you make an update?
So if you do an update in FLATsite, it only replaces basically the files that has been updated. So it's using Git, and if and basically we see like, okay, I done an update on a page. It's only basically affecting 2 files, I guess. That's the menu, and that's in the menu, and maybe the page itself, and then it's only pushing basically those pages. Else it would kill your bandwidth if with any incremental updates.
That was my concern.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if it's all, I guess it's also keeps tracks of what is already deployed via FTP.
Yeah, exactly. And we're trying to build a function that allows you to make a backward change as well. So at the moment, you cannot undo a change. Once you set deploy, it's deploying, and you cannot really go back. And we had some feedback from some users that really like to see this function. Like, yeah, sometimes I hit deploy too quick, and then I found out something is not working, and then you need to fix it and then deploy again. So we even try to make it maybe better than what WordPress has so far.
Because you have brought me memories of that Dreamweaver times when you hit that update button and it keeps updating for hours. And thousands of files have to be updated.
No. Don't worry about that. No. You have a very nice professional setup, by the way. Wow.
I just remembered something like, do you have a CDN? Like the static files such as the JavaScript, the CSS, the images, are they served from the same domain? Can we do our own CDN? That kind of things.
Well, if your CDN is supporting a push through FTP, yes, but I'm not sure which CDN does that. We choose for the route of FTP. But of course, yeah, you can also install Cloudflare, and then you also have a CDN.
All right, thank you. So guys, we're ready for the game. If you would like to join us, I've shared the link inside the chat. You can join using the code 065432. It's also in the chat if it didn't log you in automatically. I see that we have 3 participants. I need at least 5 just to make it a little bit competitive. So we have Ayman, Mark, Monolito. What about you other guys? Muhammad, Faris, Hadi, Diana, Ayman. Come on, guys.
I will also join, but I don't need the price, of course.
Yeah.
But maybe I also want to have 50% off.
Right. So we have 7 participants. Great, guys. So I'm gonna share my screen meanwhile. So you have 30 seconds to answer the questions. All right. Time's up. Now we're going to the next questions. What happened?
Wow, I had the first one wrong, guys.
And you need to practice ahead of time. Come on. So question 2, which one is not one of the advantages of FLATsite? This is a tricky one, right?
Yeah,
when I did the practice, I kept on, what's wrong? I'm choosing the correct one. Then I noticed that it's not.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. We don't want to make it too easy for you guys, huh?
All right, so all right, so we have
wow, Nilo.
Yeah, question number 3. Who is FLATsite for?
It's a very hard one.
Yeah, especially the creativity in the options. 4, 3, 2, and time's up. So I think everyone's got that right. Cool. So still Nilo in the lead. I think they're gonna catch up with you eventually. So how many WordPress sites can you manage with FLATsite?
I don't know if I noticed that, if I mentioned that. Hmm.
All right. Few people are climbing the ladder. What can you use on your server with FLATsite? By the way, on my view, I cannot see the questions. Should have opened it on mobile. Couple of
Ooh, Ayman versus Nilo.
yeah, so the correct answer was both. Some, yeah, could have been. I think this is the 5th, right? Yeah. How long is FLATsite free trial? This should be interesting for everyone to know. You know, what I like about free trials is that it really converts most of the time. Like today, I was looking for this quiz application, and they had a free trial. So I went and logged in, and I had the chance to test everything out, and I bought it just like that.
Yeah, that's the power of free.
All right, someone's catching up with you, Nilo. So the correct answer was 7 days. And this is the last, so that's it, right?
Yeah.
All right. So you should see the results by now. And we have a winner. The first place is Nilo, second place is Ayman, and the third place is Muhammad. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
So you can see a couple of statistics. If you're a fanatic of data and there's everything, you can also see the details about every question. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Michiel, so much for the presentation. For the winners, we'll get in contact with you and we will send you your discount codes. Maybe if you can share privately with me your emails, that would make it easier for me to contact everyone. This was a really a nice meetup. I really enjoyed every step of it and every stage of it. I'm so glad that we had the chance to meet you, to introduce you to our community, and we're looking forward to having you with us as a participant, as a host, as a guest. And, you're now part of the family.
Yeah, thank you. I feel very welcomed. Wow. And also let us know if you do any charity events that maybe we can help with or we can help host, because we also own a few hosting companies. So maybe
Cool.
now and then we can help you host a charity event, website, for instance. I really like those things that you do with these hackathons. And
yeah, that would be amazing, you know, that would be amazing.
Yeah, cool.
All right, so that's it, guys. If you'd like to stay for a while, we can stay and talk. Whoever wants to go, you're free to go. And thank you again.
Then you need to unmute everybody, I guess.
Mm, but I think everyone can unmute themselves, right?
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Whee!
Ayman, could you send me your email also?
Now everybody's quiet.
Yeah. What time is it now on your end?
It's 7 o'clock.
Ah, okay.